this. Okay. Revit, similar to Rhino. One question I'm getting from some of you is portrait. If you have a large space, again, especially vertical, I have this case. This is from a capstone student this year that has small spaces with interesting ceilings doing things. So what I think it would be a disservice to this project will be to come up with a rendering that is like that, or even worse. Sometimes they're so cut that you only see the furniture below, people walking around. And sometimes you even only focus on the lower components or details of that project. So you definitely want to explore the verticality of it. I think if you have like a double height living room in a residential project, or whatever double height, triple height space in a public building with a stair, I think the portrait is fundamental. At least go to the square proportion so you catch as much of the the effects and elements of the top area of the rendering. So how do we do that in Enscape? Well, you have the Enscape here, and it will look like that. This button here, and again, we'll talk more about this next class, but it's the save frame. This allows you to basically get rid of the frame, and you see the project just like that, and you can turn on the frame. The frame means I want to see what is the proportion of my rendering. And in this case, I set it to be portrait, but you can change that under this button, which is visual settings. Some very basic settings in Enscape. Remain to main aspects like a style. If it's a 2-point perspective, orthographic. Orthographics are great in Enscape if you're doing some kind of an axonometric, and so on. In rendering, selecting a view, you go to Revit. Notice how this particular view that I'm working on is called 3D View 16. Obviously, you have a name that is a bit more logical. So under views here, you will click on that view and it will go there. Okay, so that's precisely the view. If you like it there, that's fine. You can always just change with your mouse how it looks here to best fit your need. And there are all kinds of clicks and so on that you can do in your mouse to move and see things from above, etc. But the question is, how do we change that, from landscape to portrait? And that's under output. So I think the default is set to 3000, and sure, but it's 1008 or 180, I don't know, something like that. So that's the typical, actually it's probably more 1800. Okay, so that's the typical proportion of it. So look at that. It's just, that's a preview, you're not seeing anything. You will see that maybe the height of the person and so on. And I'm not saying this is wrong for every rendering. It's very correct to have a landscape. For example, in this room, you don't need to explore the world above and not too much of the world below. But for some spaces, this is a huge problem because you're like really looking up. Could you look up? Could you turn your neck up a little bit? And that's under that particular setting. Output is almost like inversing this. So I typically copy that. If you make it square, you start seeing much more of it, but you probably want to even make a 2000 to 3000 proportion. Okay. Wait, it's the opposite again. Sorry. We're talking of 2, 3. Okay, so that's the setting. And again, we will change a little bit the way we were looking, but you get to see the correct settings of that perspective. Okay, so that's where you do it. And for those that you don't know, what you do is here now is you can save the batch rendering. You click there, you click the view, and then it creates a automatically rendering that you download and you have it in your computer. Okay, so that's pretty much the setting. If you want to change resolution because it's not the highest quality. By the way, you don't see the button here, but below it says save or download kind of thing. If you want to change the resolution, which I think it's optimal as it is, but you might want to change that. You can do, again, output. The higher these numbers, the better. If you want to keep a ratio, just keep in mind that number, which is the ratio between the two. So the higher those numbers, the better. You probably want to go, if you want to be a high resolution, because in your poster or in your board, you have a very large image of something, you want to go to minimum 5,000 and up. Okay, so 5,000, whatever other number, to keep the ratio. PNG is ideal. If you apply up a channel, that will give you transparency for the background. And again, we will be talking about these things next week. Okay, so that's the portrait. Again, in your studio projects, do not show a landscape rendering when you have a lot of stuff that is interesting above you. That's almost like entering a space and not making the effort of looking up. No, it's a little look up. Can't you see that? Okay. Let me stop that.